Who split tawheed into 3 categories and why? How is it permissible to add another, and is it now permissible to add another category to the categories of tawheed? And please elaborate. Okay. With regard to tawheed, then tawheed is of tawheed in the Quran. If one was to look towards the Quran, as Shaykh al-Fawzan mentioned, and it's better that I use the speech of Shaykh Salih al-Fawzan in this matter. He mentioned that if one looks at the Quran, then you will find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks with regard to Himself in 3 types of ways. Either He will speak with regard to Himself by way of His actions, or He will speak with regard to Himself by way of His names and His attributes, or He will speak with regard to Himself, Jalla wa Ala, by way of Him commanding others to worship Him, commanding His slaves to worship Him. And you will not find a 4th way in which Allah Jalla wa Ala speaks regarding Himself. So either it is regard to His own actions, like He is the creator, the sustainer, al-khaliq, al-mudabbir, so on and so forth. That He is the Lord, the creator, the sustainer, the provider, the giver of life, the giver of death, and so on and so forth. So this is the first category that He will speak with regard to Himself. Or He will describe Himself, like He is al-Ghafur al-Rahim, al-Sami' al-Basir, al-Aziz al-Hakim. So He will say, for example, that He is the most merciful, the most forgiving, the most merciful. He is al-Basir, al-Basir, al-Sami' al-Basir. He is the all-hearing, the all-seer. Or He will say things like, subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He's the Almighty, the All-Wise, al-Alim, the All-Knowing, al-Khabir, the knower of every single affair. So He will describe Himself. Or He will mention, subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He is pleased, or that He is angry. He's angry with the Jews, for example, and He is pleased with the believers. So He will describe Himself. Or He will mention the actions of the slave with regard to his worship. There is no 4th category. In one of these 3, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will speak in the Quran. So these are the 3 types of tawheed that I mentioned in the Quran. And Shaykh al-Fawzan mentioned, this is not a matter of istilah, not a matter of just creating a nomenclature or words so that people, just for the sake of making categorizations. He said, no, indeed the Quran itself speaks about Allah within these 3 aspects of the tawheed of Allah. Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, which is the af'al of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the actions of Allah. Or Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah, which is the af'al al-ibad, which is the actions of the slave in worshipping of Allah. Or the Tawheed of Asma al-Sifat, the Tawheed of worshipping, the Tawheed of singling out Allah alone with regard to His names and His attributes. And there is no 4th category. So Shaykh al-Fawzan mentions that some people have mentioned today that there are 4th and 5th and 6th categories of Tawheed. And he goes that, and he mentions that one of them, they mention that there is such a thing as Tawheed al-Hakimiyyah. And he said this is batil. And this is erroneous. This is false and erroneous. Because when one says that there is a category of Tawheed al-Hakimiyyah, that judgment is only for Allah, then Allah being the judge, and Allah being the king, the sovereign, then that is from various aspects, Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, and the Tawheed of the Asma wa Sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enters into both of them. That Allah is the king, and Allah is the one who is the sovereign Lord of everything. So that enters into the Rububiyyah of Allah and the names and attributes of Allah. As with regard to the hukum belonging to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah alone is deserving, that He is alone, His law, meaning the Quran and the Sunnah, are judged by, and that the person should do that, then that enters into Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah, worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because when you do that which Allah has commanded, and you refrain from that which Allah has forbidden, then this is from the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said, because then a person could come tomorrow and say, let us establish a tawheed, the tawheed of salah. Would that be acceptable? The tawheed of the 5 daily prayers. Or the tawheed of zakah. That the salah is only for Allah, and the zakah is only for Allah. Would that be possible? Because what would limit you then in what would limit you thereafter in increasing on the categories of tawheed? Because these 3 are clearly established. the fourth, fifth, sixth are not established. Because if you say there's tawheed al-hakimiyyah, why not tawheed al-zakat? And there's a tawheed that zakat only belongs to Allah and should only be given for Allah. And tawheed al-salah, salah is only for Allah. What prevents a person from taking any act of worship or any aspect of worship and saying this is for Allah, so this is the tawheed of that? So therefore, the increasing of tawheed to tawheed al-hakimiyyah is from the ways of the modern day Khaarijiyyah, the modern day Khawarij. As Shaykh al-Albani used to call them, that they are the Kharijiyyah Asriyyah, that they are the modern day Khawarij. What they do is that they have chosen to single out hakimiyyah. Why? Because their intent is what? Just as like the intent in the time of Ali radiallahu anhu, which is to rebel against the Muslim rulers. So how do you single them out and how do you rile the people and agitate the people against the rulers? Take a verse of the Quran, just like the Khawarij did, and they said that the judgment is only for Allah, and say, look, they're not judging by what that which Allah has revealed. So then they single out a particular aspect just to focus upon the rulers. And this is, of course, the categorization of Tawheed al-Hakimiyyah, as the scholars have mentioned, is a bid'ah, is an evil innovation of the last decade also.